And welcome back. So hopefully you've been having some fun with the two-hand swing. We're now going to cover 3 exercises that I want you to be able to combine as a complex, as a take-home workout. We're going to cover the clean, the squat, and the press. So first and foremost, what I want you to do is we're going to break this down. It's called regressing. We're going to regress that technique to make it nice and easy for you. Now, as any good coach will tell you, it's very difficult for you to know what to do unless you've seen it. So even if you are breaking it down, at least show them the full thing so that they know the destination point. So I'll do a few cleans and then we'll bring in that regression for you. So if you notice as well, mechanically it's very similar to the swing, but instead of it going forwards, what happens is I will pop, catch, brace, and rack. I'm going to hold it in this position. So let me just talk you through what's going on here. First of all, I want you to get the dead hang, and then I want you to ever so slightly begin to lift that way. So using the knees as before, just ever so slightly bend and pull. So what we're doing is we're looking at the ball just coming up to about stomach height first of all. What I then want you to do is to make this very easy and give yourself a soft landing. I'll tell you why. You see a lot of people wearing almost the wrist cricket pads and the sweatbands, and some of them even literally got like a plastic shield inside them. I understand this, particularly if you bruise easily, because if you clean or snatch wrong, no judgments, pretty badly, instead of that soft landing, because you understand how to absorb and transfer force, you basically get a sledgehammer going bang. Now, that only has to happen a few times, particularly between these two bones and in a tendon somewhere, to literally give you a dead hand. And I'm sure you're well aware that when the hand gives up, so does your kettlebell training, hence why I did an awful lot of grip work. So the idea is, instead of it landing with impact, we are going to place it in position with our other hand. So I'm going to lift it 2 times, and on the 3rd time, I'm going to wrap it onto the arm and bring the arm into the body. So 1, 2, roll, elbow drops, and that weight comes around on to the arm. So with me, we're going to do a few of those. Again, hip hinge, grab the handle, nice neutral spine, standing tall. Bend, pop, 1, 2, roll on to the arm. So instead of that weight landing like so, what's actually happening is this. You are rolling it onto the arm. Once more. 1, 2, roll and catch. So we call this the chicken wing. So if any of you are familiar with your Wing Chun, the chicken wing, lift, flap, lift, flap. So what actually happens is, to get any kind of air on that bell, I have to pull with the traps, elevate, lift, it follows through, this comes down, the ball rolls on to the forearm, exhale, and brace as the arm sinks in. Because what you actually do is the rack position should be somewhere where, I mean, it's not a 5-star luxury holiday, but you should be relatively comfortable. If you're holding that weight here, all of this is resisting gravity. When your elbow can find your iliac crest, your hip bone, like so. Now you will, if you look here, you will offset. I'm not part of the Chinese state circus. I can't bend my spine left, right and center and tie myself in knots. You will slightly offset to then sit and drive for the jerk. which isn't in this series because it's possibly one of the most technical kettlebell exercises out of all. Even for level 3 personal trainers, that's the one that I would say 40 to even 50% of the time we remove that from their course, because literally in 20 minutes, if more than half of the room haven't got it, we jump in. There's frustration, that they start to struggle. So 1, 2, touch and wrap. Now from here, that elbow will sink. So if I'm holding it freestyle, yeah, I'm using muscle to keep it airborne to fight gravity, which is pointless. Let it rest here in the rack. You can see the spine slightly offset. I'm not going to need surgery. I can literally stand here for 10 minutes, relatively problem-free. Because what's happened is instead of me holding this thing and shaking, I've basically put it on a shelf, because my elbow is connected to my hip, which goes down through my leg to my heel into the floor. So although I have to maintain posture to keep the weight there, I'm not holding it isometrically with muscle, which would be exactly the same as doing a timed hang from a pull-up bar. You get there for so long and you're gone. So here you're holding. It kicks in, lactic acid builds up, you run out of petrol basically, and then you're gone. Remove that by allowing elbow to find hip. Again, this is essential for press, so we need to get this position because we're going to press after we squat. So once more from front on now, we're just going to lift to stomach, roll and catch. And you can nudge, ideally, to form a semicircle. So that bell wants to come about here. Under, and now, pull, roll and catch. So if you can understand the reverse action, you now should be able to pull it back to this position. Nudge, under, pop and catch. What we're going to do, there's at least 10 to 12 detailed points here, which I will put in a bigger, more immersive full masterclass. So this is just kind of a free intro. The bigger project will cover every teaching point I know on what is actually quite a technical exercise. The 3 that are technical within the kettlebell family are the clean, the snatch and the jerk. The windmill, the press, the swing, they're all pretty much kind of standard movements. A couple of teaching points for the clean. The ball will never come higher than the fist, because then you're fighting gravity. Gravity is a law, well, gravity is an acceleration. Gravity is a law, and gravity will win, and it will beat your arm into submission. So if you imagine there's me pulling this weight and it comes up to about head height, how is it going to rest on my arm? Bang, with a thud. And as mentioned previously, a few of those, particularly in the wrong place, renders your hand useless. So the ball never comes higher than the fist. If you watch, instead of, now even higher, bang, that's certainly what you don't want, okay? Eventually you get so efficient, you pull exactly what is required to land it. So as I mentioned, that arc. Should I drop that weight straight down? Remember the kiddie swing with the pendulum? So from here, maximum force to accelerate, huge amount of potential energy comes crashing back, and I put the brakes on. So I've now got to start from 0, rather than allowing it to travel under, and all I need to do is add a little bit to the potential energy that is at least here, yeah? Okay, same with the clean. If I drop that weight dead, it's potentially going to jar the spine. If I accelerate, so the arm that's caught it, what we call it the nudge. From here, off, okay, off. And as you nudge it, it will create a kind of arc, semicircle. Extension of the elbow. It can't go forwards anymore. Here's my shoulder, so what will happen? If I bend, I allow it to go under. Similar mechanics to the swing we covered earlier. So as I pop through, I now shrug, chicken wing, catch, rack. I'll give you 2 more tips. Very important one. So that it doesn't feel like Mike Tyson giving you a crack somewhere. The arm and the weight and the body, there's 3 variables here. When they all combine together, that's the punch, okay? As you can see, yeah? So I've got, 35 pounds of mass that's accelerating, therefore it's actually producing more force than it weighs. If it's here, it's now traveling towards me. That's going to feel like a strike. Particularly if it lands on the body at the same time as the arm does. So there's a phase called deceleration. It's a very subtle kind of handbrake, mid-catch. What I mean by that is as the bell is closing in, the bell touches the arm, and then the arm touches the body. And with a little bit of, maybe think of a tackle, with a little bit of bracing, that arm activating before it reaches the body just slows down that weight rather than it striking us, okay? I will do 2 with the strike. I actually show you from here so that you can see my arm. I'll do 2 strikes. I will do 2 with an exaggerated delay so that you can really kind of see it and maybe even pause it so you can see what's going on. And I'll do 2 normal ones, okay? So the strikes. Arm, body. Arm, body. Now notice, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. And I'm going to reduce that even more. So you can see that what happens is there's a certain flow state where boom, 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 rather than it striking you or it needing to be so exaggerated, it's still quite cumbersome and therefore is costing you time and effort, which are both energy or reps in time. My final key point, now this will take a little bit of time, but pay attention because it's how the big lifters get their repetitions. This is what would be known in kettlebell circles as your kind of golden ticket secret. For most people that train with kettlebells, their grip blows out fast. Mainly because they're not used to working at that kind of intensity. So how do we ensure that we don't empty our petrol tank too early? We offset the handle so that we can actively recover during the clean and the snatch. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you think of any standard handle in a gym, yeah? So you've got the little hand, you've got the rower, you've got your dumbbell, you've got your barbell, you've got your pull-up machine, you've got your rowing thing, you've got all these. They are all 90 degrees relative to your forearm, meaning you simply crush grip them, same as you would a pair of hand grippers. Now, where does that handle sit? Handle sits in the middle of your palm, so let me just come in here. The middle of your palm is a couple of inches from your wrist. Now, it was Pythagoras that said, give me a lever long enough and I can lift the world. If you were to load up a barbell on one end with literally hundreds of pounds and go to that end, it probably wouldn't move. Yeah, if you go to the other end, you could probably lift it and it would feel like a kind of, almost like a broom handle. So what does that tell us about physics? The further away you are from that fixed point, the easier it is to move it. For example, here's my pivot. If I resist, yet someone pushes my fingers, that's gone. Come down a little bit closer, push the hand, I'm a bit stronger. Push the palm, still going to give eventually, but how about pushing very close to the wrist? Now you could resist that all day long because you are basically pushing at the area that it's going to bend. Come up here, boom, it's gone. Come back down and you are much stronger. So if you notice, the kettlebell handle will sit here because you're crushing it the same as you would any handle in a conventional gym setting. But if you think about it, what is that doing to you? Because the mass is offset relative to the handle. With a dumbbell, you've got your handle and your weights are either side of it, level. With your kettlebell, you've got your handle, but the mass, the ball, is over here, offset several inches. And what do you notice about the kettlebell? If I hold it here in that crush grip position, it's basically arm wrestling me. Why? My forearm is on, resisting wrist extension. Okay? And eventually the kettlebell will win because it's a distance from that wrist. So here, on, as you can see. Now, if you slightly adjust that handle, guess what? Off. Not many people can do that. So here's a 16 kilo bell, offset, and look, that forearm is largely off. Back to here. On. Off. What do you think that does to a 5 or a 10 minute set? The difference is immense because when you're repping, you stop here, you haven't stopped, you can get your breath, but your forearm's now burning. You are literally holding, you're hanging from a chin bar. And what often happens is eventually that weight's gone because you never get to switch the grip off. And that is always the limiting factor for most people. So, when you catch, tilt it down. Ideally 2 points of contact. Here and here. And what that does is when you go overhead, that stops it rolling around on the arm. So we call it the monkey grip or the paw grip, the false grip. This is perfectly balanced through the floor. Forearm largely off compared to, well, you can see the difference. Yeah. On. Off. And it is such a game changer. So the easiest way to get that is to physically catch it in the normal position and then twist it to that optimized position. Because eventually you'll get there with a tiny little palm strike. Okay? While the bell is in motion, there's a slight adjustment here so that handle angles. Catch it normally and adjust. Flip to catch it normally and adjust. So basically the handle, instead of being parallel, will point to the floor about 6 or 7 feet in front of you. Eventually, you catch it in this position. And that makes life so much easier. So there's a few tips for the clean. The clean is a fantastic workout, still cardio based, working posterior chain, core to brace, quite a lot of forearm. There's some isometric work in the body to keep it kind of stable. Very good for intervals, very good to combine with body weight, particularly to combine as a complex, which we will see as we add in the next two ingredients, the squat and the press, for a full body peripheral heart rate training workout.